said, it's officially the Christmas season. It's officially Advent as of yesterday. Yesterday was the first Sunday of Advent. Okay.
Whoa.
What was that?
Just a woot.
Oh, I thought you said whoa. And Adam and Paula, if I skip anything, if you want to add anything, please feel free to stop me and add your 2 cents in. But we'll talk about it. So here's some questions for you to kind of ask yourself. I'll give you a few seconds to kind of reflect on these questions before we get into it. What do you know about Advent? What are some of the memories you have of Advent? And what are some questions you may have? Okay, so let's take a couple of seconds and reflect on those questions, and then we'll get into it. I guess I could have put some music on, but oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree.
Keep it going. Classic.
Yes. Okay, so let's start with the first one here and just kind of run through these real quick. What do you know about Advent? Let's start with, let's go with the fan lady, Brianna.
I kind of forgot a lot about it.
Okay, so what do you think? What do you what's your basic knowledge?
I mean, it happens during Christmas.
Okay, that's a good start. That's good. All right, Ashlyn, what about you? Ashlyn?
I don't know.
Okay. That's perfectly all right if you don't. That's what we're here for. Danielle?
Yeah, me neither. Don't really remember much about it.
All right. Paula, what you got?
Okay, preparing for the coming of the Lord. Let's see, going to confession beforehand, and what else? I guess being kind to others beforehand.
Okay.
Just getting a pre-Christmas.
Somebody was paying attention to Mass yesterday. And we'll actually, Adam, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, Advent's great, man. It's the preparation for Christmas, right? It's us preparing for Jesus to be born into the world. You know, it's not every day that you celebrate somebody's birthday with a whole month leading up to him.
Right, right. So if y'all want to share, I mean, I'm guessing that the young ladies don't have a whole lot of memories of Advent if they don't really know a whole lot about it, which is fine. But Adam and Paula, do y'all have any Advent memories?
Yeah,
anything that y'all did growing up, or that your parents did, or whatever?
yeah. My family has always had an Advent wreath in our house. You know, it's pretty common for churches, which I'm pretty sure St. Michael's has an Advent wreath somewhere. You know, just to have like the purple and the pink candles. And we have one of those at our home too. And it's nice to kind of follow along with that, just kind of build the anticipation.
Yeah, yeah. Paula?
We never did a Advent wreath, but last year there was an Advent Bible study beforehand, preparing for it. And that was very cool. And sometimes at church, we'll, off the tree, we'll grab one of those tags and buy some gifts for some kids.
Okay. Well, my memories, like Adam, my mom had an Advent wreath that she always had put prominent. Maybe it was on the kitchen table in the middle as a kind of a centerpiece, maybe on a coffee table. She kind of moved it around, but she made sure that it was where you could see it. It wasn't anything special. It was just pretty basic. Some some holly around it with little wire stands and the skinny candles, but just something about it. Something about the Advent wreath just drew me to it a lot when I was a kid. And it wasn't just the fire. It was, I would always, I would always want to light the candles. And just seeing like the three purple and the rose colored and being able to light it. And I don't think necessarily I knew what it meant. I had an idea, but I didn't really have a full idea of what it meant. But still, again, something really drew me to it. And I always loved having that Advent wreath around. That was one of the, probably one of the more prominent Christmas memories that I have in mind is always seeing that Advent wreath and the candles lit. So kind of a little bit of a rant there, sorry, or going on, but that's one of my most fondest memories of any Christmas decoration that we had around the house. So, okay, and ladies, do y'all have any questions? What questions do you think you have about Advent that you want to really find out more about? Go ahead, Ella.
This isn't a question, but like one of my Advent memories is we
Sure.
always, like when we were younger, we used to always have these little Advent calendars, and you open one every day and leading up till Christmas, like start on the 1st and ending on the 24th. Yeah.
And
That's
that's
my
a
memory.
that's a pretty big tradition too that most people have is to go along with the Advent wreaths. That's cool. That's cool. So Ashley and Danielle, Brianna, do y'all have what are some of the questions that that may have popped into your mind whenever we said, hey, Advent is our topic for today? Let's go ahead, Ashley, go ahead.
I thought it was like the candle because of the picture.
Okay. So you're more of the candle, why we light the candles? Okay. Danielle?
Well, I know how they changed the colors for like different, I don't know how I'd put it, but like why, I was like wondering why this one would be purple.
Okay. So why the colors and why 3 purple and 1 rose instead of all purple or whatever? Okay, that's a good question. And Miss Brianna, what you got?
Not really a question, but I remember I used to wonder what my grandma had those candles for the longest time.
Okay.
And then I found out.
Okay. Oh, curiosity. Not just for kiddies anymore. Okay. All right. So basically, we got here, what is Advent? Like Paula said, and Adam said, it's the coming of Jesus into the world. It's our preparations for the coming of Jesus. And like Adam was saying, it's preparing us for Christmas Day and the birth of Jesus Christ. And that's it in a nutshell, basically. And Advent is actually Latin for coming. So there we go. And of course, Advent is a period of 4 weeks leading up to Christmas Day. And it started yesterday. So we have 3 more. This is the first week, and we'll have 3 more after this. Each Sunday marks the beginning of a new week of Advent. And you can either mark that with the Advent wreath and the candles, which we'll get into in a little bit, or an Advent calendar, like I believe it was Ella was saying. Okay. And actually, the Advent is the beginning of a new liturgical year for the church. And sorry, like I said, I'm blanking out. Adam, you want to explain what a liturgical year is?
Sure. So basically, the church's calendar works a little bit different than the sort of standard calendar we use. And the beginning of the liturgical calendar is Advent, because naturally you would want to start the church calendar with the celebration of Jesus's birth. So that's kind of why we do that. And then it ends obviously with ordinary time leading into Advent, but that's the way it is. And basically every liturgical year we go into a different cycle of readings. That's another major thing that happens. So I think last year we were on cycle C. So now we're going to be back on cycle A, if I recall correctly, what part of the order we're in, which, by the way, cycle A, B, and C is what readings you're going to hear at Mass every week. So that's kind of the significance of that as well.
Thank you, sir. And like Adam said, the church liturgical year is different than our normal one. So whereas we started a new one over on January 1st, the new liturgical year will start on the first Sunday of Advent. And I believe, and if somebody can step in on this with me, but it is the first Sunday of December or the first Sunday just before December.
Yeah, it's about then. It's
Yeah.
about then. It ends up being usually the Sunday after Thanksgiving with how it goes, which sometimes it's the first Sunday of December, sometimes it's the last Sunday of November. So it's kind of around then, which, in our case, it was yesterday.
Right. So there's no specific date, but like Thanksgiving, it's right around that time. And like Adam said, we just started it yesterday. So our new liturgical year started yesterday, as well as the first Sunday of Advent. Okay. And Advent can be described as expectant waiting or hopeful anticipation, joyful preparation. And if you look at the beginning, the first words here, expectant, okay, that's kind of almost the same thing, but you're waiting with hope, with joy. Okay, all these positive adjectives, these descriptive words, right? And there's the English teacher coming out of me, sorry. But all these positive adjectives to describe the waiting, because we're waiting for Jesus Christ, the coming of Jesus Christ. And that should be a really happy, joyful time, full of hope. And it may sound like I'm repeating myself, but I really want to hammer that home is just, we're not just waiting. We're waiting with hope, with joy in our hearts. Because Jesus is the man, Jesus gives us hope. And so, yeah, he's the light. So why wouldn't we wait with this hope in our heart, with this joy in our heart? Okay. And we touched on this a little bit earlier, some Advent traditions. They vary depending on what part of the world the season is celebrated. So, here in the United States, we might have a couple that are different from, say, in Europe or somewhere else. So, but some that we celebrate are the Advent wreath, which we touched on, the Jesse tree, and O antiphons. Okay. All right, so we're just really going to touch on a couple of these, okay? An Advent wreath is a wreath with 4 candles, which are lit on each Sunday during Advent. We've already discussed that, and you should already know that. But what you may not know is why they're colored the way they are, okay? So you have 3 that are purple and 1 that is rose. Oops, there's a typo, I just noticed.
It's still the same basic word.
Yes. The purple color represents the preparations made for the coming of Christ. Okay. And the rose, it's lit. Oh, I'm sorry, backing up just a little bit. when I was a kid, I used to think that the 3 purple candles were lit in succession, right in a row, with the rose one being lit um, on the last Sunday. But um, it's actually the rose was lit is the third one to be lit. And it's the third Sunday, which is and I know I'm going to butcher this, but the Gaudete Sunday.
Gaudete Sunday. Yep.
Um, and that marks the halfway point of Advent. We're half over. We're getting closer and closer to the coming of Jesus. So you light 2 purple candles, which again represent the preparations, and then the rose one is the third one. And then basically the final purple one is the final preparations that you're making. Okay. And the reason we light these, it's representing Jesus Christ, who is the light of the world.
Yep. And why are the purple candles purple, Andy? Do you know?
I'm going to let you take that one because I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, that's fine. So the reason why the purple candles are purple, y'all might remember from your social studies classes that purple, back in the old days, purple was the most expensive color to make because like the dyes for it were the hardest to get. So royalty would be the only ones who would have purple. So Advent and Lent, which Lent is the season preceding Easter, are marked with purple to show that it's heavily associated with Christ, who's the King. So that's the reason why Advent is purple. And then, of course, the one rose-colored candle, because it's not pink, because Jesus didn't pink from the dead, he rose from the dead, to represent Gaudete Sunday, which is the halfway point, as Andy said. Right back to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, and that's exactly right. Purple is the color of royalty. I mean, Adam already said it, but you see a lot of these kings wearing purple, and that represents royalty and the King of Kings, Jesus Christ, right there. You'll also see the priests. You'll see Father Dwight wearing purple during this time as well, for that very reason, to celebrate the coming of the King of Kings, Jesus. So, and as you can see kind of in the background, it doesn't have to be anything too fancy. The wreath can be made of things like holly, or I believe laurel, anything like that. It doesn't have to be too fancy. Just like that. And this is probably the most common tradition that you'll see. Churches will have them, St. Michael's will have them, but it's also something that people can have in their own homes. Okay. The next one we'll talk about is the Jesus tree, the Jesse tree. And it's basically a representation of Jesus's family tree. So basically symbols are hung from the tree that signify important people in events leading up to Christ's birth. And some people add them daily, some people add them weekly. Okay. And some people use real trees, and some people may use ones that are made of felt or burlap or something like that, to represent a real tree instead.
I'm guessing this is where the tradition of your standard Christmas tree with ornaments and whatnot came from.
Exactly. That's where it stems from. That
is really interesting. I actually didn't know that beforehand. So right on for finding this info out, Andy.
All right. And so I don't have a slide, but we'll come back to that.
See, what was the third thing?
Oh, antiphons.
Oh, antiphons. What are O antiphons, Andy?
I'm about to tell you. If you picked up the brochure at church, if you went and didn't social distance, it explains a lot of these. And actually, if you go to smlj.org, it has a lot of resources for you to learn more about Advent. But what O antiphons are, the 7 antiphons that are recited or chanted on each day of the special period of Advent preparation, known as the octave. It's before Christmas. Okay, it runs from December 17th through December 23rd. Each one highlights a title for the Messiah, and each one refers to a prophecy of Isaiah for the coming of the Messiah. So it's more preparation for the coming of the Messiah. And I don't know if that made any sense. If somebody wants to break that down a little bit for me, if you can.
So essentially, they're prayers that you do in order to help prepare even further for the coming of Christ.
Right. And it's just another tradition that you can do, another more preparation, something you can do to prepare yourself for the coming of Christ.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got to sit back and watch this video.
Yep.
Let's do it.
And then we'll do the discussion here. Maybe. Okay.
You know, I always go back to the great song of Advent, O Come, Emmanuel. We sing it all the time. We love the melody. We all sing it. But I wonder how often we attend to the words, right? O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel that mourns in lonely exile until the Son of God appears. An extraordinary thing, because our culture is so predicated upon auto-salvation, right? Some version of I can save myself. Whether it's through economic reforms, political reforms, it's through fitness, through better eating, or whatever we choose, I can save myself. And Advent dramatically says, no, you can't. You can't save yourself. All you can do in some ways is beg. You can ask that the one who can save you will come. So I like the fact that it's permanently disorienting, Advent. It throws us off our usual expectation of self-sufficiency, self-salvation. You got to feel like a captive to get Advent. See how I'm driving it? You have to know. I love about the 12-step programs that they compel you to admit your helplessness. You have to turn your life over to a higher power because you can't save yourself. You know you're in this addictive pattern and you can't lift yourself up out of it. Well, all sin is an addictive pattern, really. And we should have the same sensibility that we can't lift ourselves up out of it. We have to admit our helplessness and turn our lives over to a higher power. Man, is that difficult, but see, finally liberating, how liberating that is. You say, I'm going to allow Christ to work in me. That's what he wants. You know, like in St. John of the Cross, for example, I read a scholar recently who said the whole thing can be summed up as clearing the landing area so that God's helicopter can land. That's all he wants. He wants to land in your life, but there's all this stuff, and we have to just clear a landing space for him. That's like with Christ. O come, Emmanuel, ransom captive Israel. I'm in lonely exile here. I can't do anything. That's why Advent is permanently unsettling in a really good way.
Okay, there were a lot of big words in there, but I think he brings up a good point of, you know, a lot of people think they can do it themselves. Well, they can't.
Mm-hmm.
We have to rely on Jesus Christ, right?
Yep.
And in order to do that, we have to pave the way for his coming. And I really like that analogy that he used about the helicopter coming in, right? Because the helicopter has to have a clear landing pad to come in. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to land very well. You know, there might be some damage. There will be damage to the helicopter and as well as nearby spaces. So it has to have it perfectly clear, okay, like us. And we're the landing pad, and Jesus Christ is the helicopter coming in. Okay. So what, I mean, like I said, it was kind of, he was using some big words, big terms there, but what did y'all get out of that short little video?
Ella, let's start with you. What stood out to you from the video?
I'm sorry. I was kind of distracted by my dog eating my blanket. So, and yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Fair enough. Dogs will do that. Ain't that right? No worries. Ashlyn, pass it off to you. What stood out from that video?
When he said like when he gave the helicopter example.
Yeah, how you know, you got to prepare the way for the helicopter in order to land, but you apply this to Jesus and Advent, and you know, it's a pretty decent metaphor. So yeah, that's good. That's good. Danielle, what about you? Danielle, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, and like you said, that a lot of people think that we can do it ourselves, like turn everything around, like save ourselves. But we do have to rely on Jesus to help us.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And the important thing I want to point out from the video, which by the way, that was Bishop Robert Barron. He's a really good sort of Catholic dude on YouTube. Well, he's a bishop. He's not just a dude, but still, he makes a lot of content. He's been doing it for a long time, even back when he was still just Father Robert Barron. So one of the key themes to highlight there is that, yes, we need to rely on Christ for the things that we can't do ourselves, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to fix stuff ourselves too at times, right? You need to kind of have that right balance, because there's a difference between, you know, just kind of sitting back in your chair and be like, Christ, feed me, and then just doing nothing and expecting food to just kind of magically come out of the air and, you know, a plate to just land in front of you. Like, that's too much. But being like, Christ, help me be able to feed my family, and then you know, praying for the graces in order to say, go out and do the work and then get the food in order to feed your family. That would be where the line is. So I want to clarify that, just because we do need to rely on Christ, but that doesn't mean that we what is the word? That doesn't mean that that we're slothful because of Christ, right? Sloth. Y'all have heard of sloth, the deadly sin. That's what sloth is. So just want to clarify that.
It's a two-way street, right? And you've heard that term several times. You know, you both have to work at it. You know, Jesus isn't he's gonna clear the path as much as he can, but it's up to us to make that path as clear as possible. You know, the way I'm kind of envisioning it right now is like this forest that's completely just blocked off by all these weeds or vines or whatever, and you can't get through. You're on one side and Jesus is on the other, right? Jesus is trying to come to you, but he can't, right? Because of all these weeds. So both of you have to work to cut down those weeds to clear that path. So, sorry, that's just the image that I had.
No worries.
As you were talking there, Adam.
No worries. It was a good image. It was a good image. Helped me visualize it as well. So thank you for that, sir. All right, cool. I guess time to move on to discussion time, huh?
Yeah. So this is